Hi everybody, today we are talking about kickouts and lead changes and kind of why it happens and what you can do about it, at home to prevent it. So we hope you will hang in there with us while we chat about this and give you some ideas about how to manage kickouts, because they're a pretty significant penalty and they'll take your score from something you can be kind of competitive with to something that is not going to probably make you a check. So first of all, if you're not a rainer and you are not sure what we're talking about when we're talking about kickouts and lead changes, do you want to just explain kind of briefly what we mean by that?
Well, I think not even just in lead changes, kickouts pretty easy deal to talk about. You go to move your horse over or do something with them and they kick out. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
In the reiners and in the disciplines that we do, they're 5-point penalties. So there's where it becomes pretty significant. There is the danger part of it. Obviously, if the horse kicks out, it's rough for the rider. And then there's just a score from it. It happens to everybody because our disciplines are so many different maneuvers, staggered right back to back. We can all talk about it as, well, it never happens to me. Well, if you show enough, it will.
And they can sneak up on you. You can not even see it coming and then have a kick out in a pattern.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, the harder you push on them, especially coming through something, it will happen. And I know lots of people, when they see it at a horse show, oh my gosh, did you see somebody's horse kicks out? Yes, it sucks. Nobody wants it to happen. But let's all be realistic in that it does happen. It happens to everybody. I think I've seen every major trainer and major show person have a kick out at some point. Let's just be mature and say that it does happen, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so before we talk about what to do, let's talk just a little bit about why it can happen. What leads to a kick out and a lead change? What are some of the contributing factors?
I think one of the things that leads to it is that the horses are coming into a position where they know they're going to have to move their body around to change leads or steer better or do the next maneuver. They are a little bunched up mentally going, what's going to go on? And maybe they've been pushed a little, too hard in their bellies. We're at a horse show. We can bring it back to they're a little ulcery, they're tired. They're
fatigue,
yeah. I think one of the big things we see at the horse show, and we hear it all the time, is this horse never does this at home. Well, that's the idea of bringing them to town. I mean, my kids are never bad until I bring them into Walmart.
Our kids are never bad. No, what's the thing that people are saying right now? It's like, don't say my horse never does that, or your horse will start nevering like they nevered before or something. Yeah.
And I don't think it's,
what's the point? Whether they've
the biggest thing is that they're not feeling good. They're at a horse show.
Yeah.
All that matters is 3.5 minutes in the pen with the judge. And I think a lot of times if it's a habit, it shows up somewhere where that horse has been kicked on or, has had a bad experience, and they're mad coming into that position. If they are, maybe the person didn't mean to, but they accidentally banged on their belly a little bit, or somebody did mean to and kicked on them too much. Usually it's the same frustration as like a person, in that they're frustrated because they don't know what's going to happen. They're frustrated in that they are worried about it. And similar to a person, you can work them harder if they understand what they're after. You can work them harder, get more, do more. But if they're a little unsure, that's when the kickouts are going to happen. That's when weird things are going to happen. And then, there's so much that goes into it. Their belly's a little bit sore because they've been stressing at the horse show. All that kind of stuff. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, and then I just want to add that last week in our live we talked about chargy lead changes, and we talked a little bit about kind of the progression of going from no lead change to a beautiful lead change, and how there's a lot in between. It doesn't just go from being non-existent to being beautiful, or from, you know, barely achieving a lead change to it being beautiful. There's a lot of things that need to happen in between, and I think what happens with, you know, especially green rainers, is you're having to learn how to do this challenging thing, stay balanced, not poke your horse in the side, keep them confident, keep them, you know, you're trying to remember all of the things. There are going to be times where you poke your horse and you didn't mean to, like with a spur or something. There are going to be times where that happens, and it doesn't take very many of those before your horse can get a little bit antsy. So, you know, you take your horse into the show pen, you're nervous, they're not sure why your heart's beating a little bit faster, so now they're a little bit in that kind of nervous flight zone, and they come into center, they know something's going to happen, and if you, even if you don't poke them very hard, but if you touch them with a spur, sometimes that's enough for them to want to, you know, get your foot away from their belly. So there are going to be times where that happens. I was teaching a lesson earlier this week, and we were changing leads a little bit, and we were working this teardrop exercise that we've been doing in momentum, which, you know, we're going to open up again later, so if you guys want to jump in, just let me know. But we've been working this teardrop exercise and having a lot of success with it, and it sets the horses up really nicely, it sets the riders up really nicely. The rider actually got a really beautiful lead change, and it wasn't a super difficult lead change to ride, but when the horse changed, she accidentally bumped with the new inside leg and didn't mean to. There's going to be times where you just get a little bit off balance, and unfortunately, just due to the nature of the maneuver, just like with stops and spins and stuff, sometimes you're going to get a little bit off balance, and you are going to bump them. The ulcer thing, that just goes back to, like, let's try to take the best possible care we can of our horses so that we can avoid all of the things that come with ulcers, right? Mm-hmm. And then what, I guess... So,
and not just ulcers. I guess the other thing, too, is not just ulcers.
Fatigue.
Fatigue, if they have sore feet. Like anything where, just like a person,
if they're torqued out because they're not sleeping because the lights are on all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing to address if there's any of that stuff, you know, if there's some swelling, if you have a swollen leg, or let's say a little bit of a sore leg, you're going to be crankier. It's going to happen. But the more important thing is, how are you going to address it, fix it, and ride it? Mm-hmm. You know, and one thing we see all the time from the coaching point of view, somebody will come into the farm and say, you know, I got my horse kicking out, let's say. And my biggest thing is, show me. I want to see it. Just, you know, lope down there and show me what you got. And I'll watch it, and I've seen this a million times, where somebody brings their foot near them, pokes them, and then takes it away because the horse kicks. And you've taught the horse a trick.
A trick to kick on command now.
Yeah, you basically taught them a circus trick. And, so from the rider's point of view, the biggest thing to do is you need to be solid. You need to touch your spur on their belly. We need to be able to do that. But it's a touch where you push, you hold. You know, don't take it away the instant you get a lead change.
And not just the spur, the whole leg, the calf, everything needs to come on. So that it's not just a poke, because even though it's not a lot of pressure, a poke doesn't have to be a lot of pressure. If it's a teeny tiny little pressure, you know, a fly can drive a horse bananas. So if they know that it's coming, if they feel your leg come on first and then they feel the spur, then they've had their warning, they know what their body's supposed to do, the spur's just reinforcing it, and then they will accept that a lot better than just a poke out of nowhere.
And I think when they have that solid cue, it's so important. Mm-hmm. The one I always do when I give lessons, when somebody's poking at a horse, is, I walk up to them and I just go, how do you like it?
You want me to kick you?
And just like that, I realize my wife always has a sunny personality and is always smiling, but her demeanor changed a little bit when I just randomly poke, poke, poke. As where if I wanted her to move over and I just went like that, you know, you get a
less likely to punch you in the face.
Well, that gets back to 9 years of marriage. I've taught you to be mad at me.
Oh my gosh, you created a circus trick.
I think the biggest thing when those horses do it repetitively is you have to push them more continuously, where it's just, I'm going to push you over. Thank you very much. I'm going to push you over.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
And I think what the majority of the people that we help with lead changes, the pushing over is having the horse move sideways, having the rib cage move over. So a lot of people get into the lope, and once they're in the lope, the only thing they do is go faster and slower and, you know, turn a little bit inside of the lope. They're not having the horse move the rib cage over and accept having the leg come on, the spur come on, and hey, I need your body to move over. If you can make that part willing, then you can make the lead change so that the lead change is the easiest part.
I think that's the biggest thing is the moving over, because I see so many people when they change leads, as soon as that horse takes his feet off the ground and starts to move a little bit, they take it off, and then the horse drags the back lead, and then they come back in the second time and poke them, instead of leaving your foot on until you get that big swooping hawk to the side, where it's just like I tell her back, I don't care if they change leads. I'm coming in there going, I'm just going to move you over in that mood, compared to, you need to change leads now. You know, it brings in just such a different mood to the deal, where the horses don't get worried about it. And they just go, yes, sir, I will move my hocks over. Thank you very much. What's next?
So one of the questions that we had was, my horse kicks out when I change from left to right, but not from right to left. You have some input on that?
Side pass that horse a ton to the right first. That's always my go-to. Does he move his hocks? And when I mean side pass, I mean truly side pass, where the hocks and the nose are further to the right. You're not pulling them to the left and then pushing your hip over. And I want those things to side pass, walk, jog, and lope, where they move over so that they move their hocks better. First and foremost, make sure he's sound. Make sure there's not a soundness issue. But from the training point of view, drive those hocks over a bunch of times. Don't even change leads. Like if I have one that comes to me and the people say just that, I might not change leads for the first couple of days, but they're going to spend most of the ride going sideways. And I think that's usually you have a lack of that horse saying, yes, yes, sir, or ma'am, whoever sent it in. You know, saying, yes, sir, I will move to the right. Yes, sir, I will move to the right. Yes, sir, I will move to the right. And get them so comfortable moving to the right, aside from the lead change. And then when you go to change leads, they just go, yes, I can move my hocks to the right.
The only thing I would add to that is that a lot of times when you're in the pen and you're changing, if you're changing from left to right, you're changing from the gate side to the far side of the arena, where the horses typically don't want to be. And so, you know, sometimes there's a little bit of a gravitational pull towards the horses in the gate. And if your horse is kind of leaning or kind of feeling herd bound or a little bit steady or whatever, it can happen in either direction, but
more often than not,
I feel like more often or not, they don't like being pushed away from the fence. So that is a place where you want to work more, you know, and not just working at the lead change itself and the side passing, but working at getting your horse comfortable in the pen, away from the gate.
And I'm a big one. I don't change leads. I don't believe in the old theory, you never change leads at center. Like the old trainers always say, never do it at center. I do it everywhere. I don't care if it's at center, off center. I just find a spot where that horse feels stiff moving over, and then I just go do it there 100 times. And
But you don't lope through center, change leads, lope through center, change leads, lope through center, change leads, lope through center, change leads. You don't do it
I just
over and
lope
over and over
randomly
again.
around movement.
You're
I
very
change
good
everywhere.
at being random and spontaneous. I feel like most people need to work more at intentionally changing in different places. I know I do. I know I actually have to have a plan to be spontaneous. I have to actually be like, I'm not going to change here. I'm going to go change here and here and here and here. And,
For me, the best spot to change leads was like when I used to work for the Dutchman, he had an old airstrip behind his house.
And just go straight and change.
We just went straight, and I mean,
Yeah.
we just kept loping, and you could move them sideways. They never thought of changing direction. It was simply a lead change. And I've told so many people that if you can find the headlands on a field or a pasture, there's sometimes I'll head out into the broodmare pasture and just go lope around and change leads where they just cannot figure out a spot. And that really does a huge amount for their mental well-being as well as the lead change part.
First year we moved here, I got ready for Congress in what is now our arena, but was a cornfield
then.
at the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it worked. I mean, you take them out into those big fields and just move them sideways. That's a great deal. I think in the arenas we get so stuck on, we're always turning, we're always doing some, to be somewhere in that arena. Just lope them out in the most random spots.
Yeah.
We teach them to show in an arena, but horses can't know they're in an arena. They just have to think we're just going wherever Jess tells me to go. I'm just going. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It worked in the cornfield. I mean, it was.
It worked in the cornfield. What the heck?
We got her done.
Yeah.
I've never had as good a lead changes as when I had the old airstrip though, because that's all we had. We didn't have an arena to put them in, and they were just straight lines. Those horses never ducked. They never, and if they're not ducking, they're not throwing their hips around. Like it was a great deal to take them out and just put them out in the open. And I think that's just another way to make them say yes sir, yes ma'am. But to me, the biggest one is don't take your foot off, especially if they kick out. We see somebody, the horse kicks out, they take their foot off, and the people say, "Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have been there." If I'm working on one that or one that I have and it kicked out, boy, I leave my foot in there until it moves over. That's the only way I'm going to take my foot off is when they move over comfortably and say, "Okay." I think that gets into eliminating the poke out of it too.
Okay, quickest lead change advice for somebody whose horse is kicking out in the lead change in 3 seconds.
Sign of the cross.
Go.
Get religious real quick and go.
Okay.
No, I think.
Okay, mine is gonna be a little more tactical than that, but okay.
I think leave your foot on them.
Yeah.
Come in slow and solid.
Yeah.
But leave your foot on them.
Okay.
Sign of the cross doesn't hurt.
I was gonna say before you go into show, move them around off your leg.
Yes.
You can't just lope around, and then go in and try to change. Move them off your leg. Just even if it's like, even if you don't have space to do a bunch of side passing, you can do some counterflexion in the trot. You can, jog them around, put your leg on a little bit. Like do something where you're getting your leg on them and they're remembering that your leg is there and that they have to be soft to it.
And especially if you can't change leads right in the warm-up pen outside the thing. You can be jogging and just move that hip over 3 strides. Move that hip over 3 strides and just keep doing that.
Yeah.
I see Kristen's on here. Kristen, I'm sorry I forgot to call you back last night. I promise I will call you here in a little bit.
Poke and hope. She's saying poke and hope.
Yeah, we try not to do that poke part. The hope is all right, but let's go push and hope. That's where it's made better.
Push and hope.
Poke and hope was what gets everybody kicking out. But
push and visualize the perfect lead change. That's going to help. Okay, we are going to let you guys go here. Hopefully you found something in here that was helpful. We do have an amazing collection of exercises that are meant to help you in supporting your lead changes inside of our online coaching program, Momentum, where we're not just standing here in front of the camera. We're actually riding and demonstrating, showing you some of these things, breaking them down, giving you the coaching that you need to go and try it, and then also giving you the support inside of the Facebook community to ask questions and let us know whether something is working or not quite working, and even posting a video where you can get some feedback on your own riding. So we have 3 or 4 really valuable resources now inside of Momentum just around lead changes. The one we've been working on recently is the teardrop shape. So if you are inside of Momentum and you have not checked out the teardrop shape yet, you now have a series of 3 videos, and I am about to publish on the 4th one, which is where we're actually doing the lead change. All the other parts are leading up to it. Now we're actually adding in the lead change. We've been doing it in lessons here in person as well. I have had people who have never done lead changes before do their very first lead changes clean, no muss, no fuss, no diving in, no charging, no kicking out, nothing. And I have some people that now have this tool that they can go and use anytime that they want to practice their lead changes, including when they're at the horse show. So if you're interested in that, let me know. We are going to open that back up for the public, so you guys can join us there, and we can help you with your riding a little bit more closely, I guess, with actual riding exercises. Thanks for being here with us. If you have a question or you have a topic that you'd like for us to cover, you can send that to us. You can just comment wherever you're finding us, or you can send that to us at our email, which is hayeskofellph@gmail.com. And we will be back soon. We're not going to be on, no, we are going to be on next week, and then we'll have a week off when we're at the horse show. So we'll get a replay set up for you if you're on our email list.